Welcome to Imperfect in an Uncertain World, resources for living with authenticity and purpose. Wow, 2020 has been quite a year. I think it's been a year for the record books. But what I've noticed is gosh, there's a lot of grief present, um, a lot of change, a lot of loss. How do we discover the meaning within the grief? How do we use grief as a catapult into really living our life lesson? And as I say that, or life message, and as I say that, I think about Gandhi. And when asked, "What is your message?" he said, "My life is my message." So let's talk a little bit about how grief can be the catapult that throws us into our life message. So I'm going to go back again and say, you know what, lately there's been a great welling of grief, and it's really flooded into an unsuspecting world. I go back and I think, who would really have realized January 1st, 2020, that the world would experience so many challenges and face so much loss in less than a year? I mean, we're not even 9 months in yet. It's the middle of September. We often have to remind ourselves of the many avalanches that have happened this year. Um, we talked about I was talking with my son about the wildfires in Australia, and he looked at me and said, "That happened this year?" Yes, it happened this year. So if you go back and you look at everything that has happened, and those are world or global events, think about the things that have happened to you personally. If you're unfortunate enough to have lost a job or to have been unemployed, to have lost someone that you loved, that has transitioned, it's fatiguing. And through this fatigue, we're challenged to recognize our grief, stand in our own power, and do everything we can to alleviate the suffering that percolates around us. Now, you're probably thinking, oh my gosh, this is a horrible situation, but I'm going to say all is not dire. We as individuals and as community really are given great opportunities that cannot be missed. These opportunities are to grow into our message, be that as an individual or be that as a community. So we can really begin to reflect upon the question that Gandhi answered when he said, "My life is my message." So I'm going to challenge you. Do you know what your message is? And how do you discern your message when you're bombarded with grief that just is overwhelming? It's fatiguing. So I'm going to begin by saying that grief is a powerful shaper of the articulation of our message. And today I'm going to use the 5 stages of grief: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance, as defined by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross in this whole discerning process. And so what is following and what I'm going to lead you through is my take on using grief as a discernment springboard. So I'm going to begin by saying, if you've listened to any of my videos before, you know I'm really big on full body listening. And what full body listening does is get you a detailed image of how your grief is expressed. And so as you answer each question, use your primary senses: sight, hearing, sensing, or feeling, smell, and taste, to really begin to formulate your response. Notice how your body, mind, spirit, and your emotions are impacted by each of the questions. And so through this, you're going to get an overall image, kind of what's going on and what grief is saying to you and how it's talking to you. So let's begin with denial. What in your life are you not accepting? What are you just saying no to? What do you avoid, minimize, or misinterpret? What in this moment would you name as the most important denial? How is that denial stopping you from sharing your message with the world. You might want to jot down these questions or pause the video, answer the questions, and then go forward, whichever way works best for you in this moment. Second, anger. I want you to reflect upon those things that tangle you in denial. And then ask yourself, how does my anger stem from that tangling? Then I want you to dig beneath the anger to its roots and discover what triggers the anger inside of you. How is that root impacting your internal monologue or what you're saying up here to yourself? Your emotions, and even your physical body. What are you feeling in your physical body as a result of that? Third, bargaining. How often do you make the if this, then that deal? What do you bargain for? And how is your anger a bargaining chip? That might take a little bit of reflection to discover the answer for that. What is the impact on your body, mind, spirit, and heart, or your emotions on that bargaining? And what triggers are you willing to neutralize by not bartering? So say you're filled with angst and you refuse to barter, but rather stand in your power, you're going to neutralize that angst. The fourth part of this is depression. And for the sake of this exercise, I'm going to say look at depression as feelings of hopelessness that result from reactive anger. Name what you are particularly hopeless about, and then answer, how can I use the power of my anger to share my message with the world? And realize that anger can be a great motivator or it can be a great breaker. So you can either use the force of your anger to cause chaos, or you can use the power of your anger to move forward. So then ask yourself, given that, how is my anger a nonviolent power that transforms the world and transforms me and how I respond to the world? The final one is a tough one, acceptance. So what I want you to do is to begin at the top with denial and reflect upon your answers. And then create a panoramic view of what you discovered. And with that panoramic view, recognize that while you cannot change the situation, you can shift from reaction to response. Ask yourself, name some of your reactions and your responses, and then ask yourself, how are my reactions and responses to grief impacting my message, what I am sharing with the world, how I'm interacting with others? Name what is uplifting in the lessons that you've learned. And then ask yourself, how might I use this knowledge as a foundation for my message? How can I strengthen my message from what I have learned? Because to realize past, present, future, it's not just 2020 that catches us in grief. 2020 has been like the great equalizer. It's big. It says, hey, look at me, and we demands that we pay attention. It's 2020 really has stripped away the veneer of normalcy and asked us to peer deeply into our suffering and the suffering of others. This exercise isn't meant to trap you in despair. It's meant to give you the power to catapult from the depths of your grief into your message. It's meant to clear the path of hope and compassion in an uncertain world. So I'd like to just make a toast. Here's to realizing your life as your message. And at that, I'd like to thank you for watching this video. If you like it, give it a thumbs up. Share it with your friends. Additional resources are available on my website, vanessafhurst.com. That's VANESSAFHURST.com. If you're needing a little help working through this in order to set your goals and really see what the lessons are that you're working on right now, give me a call. Send me an email. Would really love to work with you. As an intuitive coach catalyst, I like to help people find their way through the uncertainty in the world. But no matter what you do, find ways to power yourself through this time of grief so that you're sharing your message as your life and your life as your message.